Thus, the interest of the civilian people limits even indirect attack or casualty on civilians.
The rights of the indigenous people are not absolute. If they harm the public or they create fear to the people in the area, that should be taken into consideration. And looking back throughout the time with the Amarans, with the Russia's authority and help over the Lamu people, it has always been a good intention. That concludes Council's submission on this issue.
So I would like now to invite to the floor the second council of the respondent.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, my name is Hak Nagun, appearing on behalf of the State of Russia as the Second Council. First, Council would like to establish that we accept the definition of the indigenous people proposed by the applicant's council. The council, in this mission, the council will discuss the unlawful support and proclamation done by the Kingdom of Amman, by first discussing the proclamation, illegality, and the unlawful support. First, regarding the proclamation. The Council would like to discuss that. My apologies, may I consult with my source? The Council would like to propose that the royal proclamation done was unlawful. On the 30th of July 2023, the Kingdom of Amman have issued a royal proclamation recognizing the referendum as lawful as valid, promoting its recognition and enforcement, and extending the diplomatic recognition to the independent Oran state, and then affirming the support for the Lamu people's self-determination. This was not a neutral political speech as the applicant's council have proposed. Looking at the context of this proclamation, the situation that was occurring at that moment, there were attacks from the FBM, there were coercion and protesting from the Lamu people. Thus, the council would like to propose that this proclamation from the Kingdom of Amman is a type of intervention. The Council would like to discuss the elements of intervention that Amman did to violate the principle of non-intervention. The first element is the consent of the intervened state, and the second element is the coercive method or intention to coerce against the territorial integrity and the political independence of the intervened state. In this case, particularly on the political independence, the Kingdom of Amman arbitrarily used its authority to recognize the referendum as lawful, even though the Lamu people are the people under the jurisdiction of the Russian government. Furthermore, the referendum has not passed the constitutional framework designed by the Russian government. It lacks the decision from the Russian people and the decision. Upon the element of consent, Russia had not consented to the decision, nor grants Amman any authority to declare independence. It is true that under the normal circumstances, declaration of independence done by another state is not an unlawful intervention. However, as the Council have mentioned, in this context, from the coercive situations and the arbitration of authorities used by the Arab government.
Two questions. What exactly is coercive in this context? Number two, does so you have agreed that the Labu people is indigenous people, but the discussion or the argument so far is that indigenous people for the purposes of right to self-determination. So, and the following up argument would be they have a duty to support the realization of self-determination, therefore, is not primary intervention. Could you respond to that self-determination argument as well?
To answer the first question about what is coercive about this proclamation, what is coercive is that the Kingdom of Amman, the Labu people, and the FBM are trying to legalize this, arbitrarily legalize the secession of the Malacca Tract and the Labu people, which is against the territorial integrity of Russia. To answer the second question, recognizing the right to recognizing the right to self-determination. The right to secession is a variable of the external aspect of right to self-determination. However, this right to secession cannot be easily invoked, for international law recognizes the territorial integrity and would want the secession to be the last possible mean. The right to secession will be invoked only when there is ethnic cleansing, genocide, or violations against that, or grave violations upon those indigenous people, which in this case, as we have seen, does not amount to that factor.
So what's the authority for that statement, and does it trouble you that this argument is invoked in Kosovo advisory proceedings, but the court did not go as far as saying that that is emerging under custom international law?
Firstly, apologies, can you rephrase the first question?
So you said this right to unilateral secession as part of self-determination is allowed in exceptional circumstances. However, your argument is the facts in this case do not fulfill that exceptional circumstances requirement. My question is, where do you get this source of authority or interpretation?
This was stated in the Kosovo advisory opinion that, my apologies, may I consult with my sources? The Council cannot assist you in that question. May I assist you in the second one?
So what's the threshold that would trigger this right to secession then? So you see what state is that if there is this right is actually in existence under international law. So supporting the exercise of this right wouldn't be prohibited.
Even though it is not prohibited as stated, the threshold would be a grave violations of the indigenous people's rights. As the Council have mentioned, genocide or ethnic cleansing, like what happened in the Kosovo advisory, that would allow secession. However, in this case, even though the applicant may argue that implementing of the Fair Education Act is erasing the Labu culture, it still does not amount to those grave violations that were implemented in other cases. If the Council may continue, the Council would like to discuss.
Sorry, just one point. So what is the consequence of that proclamation? I mean, okay, let's say even if it agree with you, because such proclamation may not be very appropriate politically, but what is the consequence of that in your country?
In Russia, the consequence of that proclamation is that Russia can lose its domestic jurisdiction, the piece of the Malacca Tract.
Maybe you have to elaborate more on that. I don't see how a statement by another state would result in that directly?
As the council have mentioned that upon this circumstance from the attacks of the FDM, the protesting of the Labu people, together with the proclamation from the Amman, which they do recognize, the proclamation was made after the violence of the FDM people, the FDM movement. Thus, with all these contexts, it can be regarded as an intervention. If the council may continue, the council would like to discuss the unlawful assistance given by the Kingdom of Amman.
Which argument has more weight? Which one is your priority argument?
My priority argument is this unlawful support because it directly is in accordance with the principle of non-intervention. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, I would like to bring your attention to fact, paragraph 13. This fact displays that Amman did give humanitarian support to the Labu people. However, it was not entirely humanitarian in nature as the applicant has claimed. There is a self-defense program requested by the chief of the Labu tribe that was implemented